WisconsinEye's Campaign 2024 programming is sponsored by Wisconsin Counties Association, Nicolet National Bank, Wisconsin Hospital Association, Operating Engineers Local 139, the Wisconsin Realtors Association, the Wisconsin Laborers District Council, and North Central State's Regional Council of Carpenters. To support programs like this, please consider a tax-deductible donation at wiseye.org/donate or by texting WisEye to 44321.
Kelly Peterson of Pere is the Democratic candidate for the 2nd Senate District. The election is November 5th. Kelly Peterson, welcome to WisconsinEye.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We thank you for participating in our candidate interview. What is your campaign's key message? Why are you running for this office?
Your voice matters. Together, our voice matters. Because here in the state of Wisconsin, that's very important, that our voices are heard and that we can take those voices to Madison to make change.
If you're elected, what's an example of a bill that you would prioritize introducing?
Well, I've been talking to a lot of people, going out and engaging in the community, knocking doors, and there are a lot of different issues, obviously, that are very, very important. But one thing that I would make sure is that women's reproductive rights and freedom are protected here in the state of Wisconsin.
If you're elected, you'll be entering the Senate during a biennial budget year. The state's projected to have more than a $3 billion surplus. What would be your top 2 priorities for use of that surplus funding?
Child care and education. Because if we want to have a healthy economy, healthy schools, we have to make sure our parents and guardians are able to work and not worry about having to pay for child care. I'm an educator. Boots on the ground education is very important to me, public education, so that is something that I would work with state leaders.
You don't mention tax cuts, tax reform. Is that something that's also part of your campaign?
It is. It is important to me. Actually, as I've been going out knocking doors just this past weekend, that was some of the conversations we had at the doors. Where do we see tax cuts? And that's something that I'll work with the people and leaders to come together and make those decisions in the center of the aisle.
Are there particular types of tax cuts that you think are important to pursue?
They're all important. I can't name one specifically right now, but that's something that I am out talking to people about.
You talked about K-12 public education as a priority for you. Can you talk a little bit more about what you think is working, what needs to change, what things you would prioritize?
Well, as boots on the ground as a instructor, I know very well and I've seen some of the struggles we face. One thing that I would like to bring more change into and more funding would be mental wellness, mental health. We need to have more counselors who can help students, more resources, and not just students, faculty, teachers, educators. So there's that, and also making sure that we're not cutting public education and that we are investing in public education.
What are your thoughts on the future of the higher education system in Wisconsin? 4-year colleges, 2-year colleges, technical colleges. What should the legislature be focusing on in that area?
Well, they should focus on all 3 because they're all important. I do teach at the Tech College here in Green Bay, and that's education is very, very important to me. And I can't point a finger at which one's more important because they're all important, and that's something that will work, again, in the center of the aisle to make good decisions for the people of Wisconsin and educators.
Is that area underfunded, or what do you think the legislature can do to help?
I think they could take some of the surplus and put it into education and see where it best fits in education, and that's something that I would work and have conversations with if elected.
What do you see as the state's largest workforce challenge, workforce development challenge, and how would you propose addressing it?
Well, I think we need to invest locally. as I've been going out and listening to people again and going door to door, that is something they're very concerned about, is the economy, housing. Can they afford rent? Can they afford gas? Can they afford even putting food on the table? Groceries are skyrocketing. So all of these are something that I would definitely address once elected in office, because it impacts every one of us.
Another workforce question for you. Investments in public and energy infrastructure grow our state's economy. These investments also provide an opportunity to invest in our state's workforce, but currently there are no requirements for hiring local workers. Would you support a state resident hiring requirement for state, local, and utility scale infrastructure investments?
I would support, I support a healthy economy. So looking at the overall picture, again, I would have conversations with people in the community, making sure I'm getting feedback from the taxpayers to see if this is what they want as an invested interest. So anything that's going to help our economy sustain to be healthy is something that I will work with if elected as state senate.
So that's an issue that you would just need more information about.
Exactly, a little more clarification.
Employee classification is an issue in the construction industry. Some employers misclassify workers as independent contractors or pay them in cash off the books. This lowers costs by avoiding payroll taxes and unemployment insurance, and it puts compliant companies at a disadvantage when bidding on projects. Plus, misclassified workers may be denied minimum wage protections or overtime pay. Are you aware of this, and what do you think should be done about it?
I am very aware of this, and in order to have, again, a healthy economy, we need to make sure that we are paying our contractors, and they are also making sure that they are being taken care of as well. So it's something, again, I would take to Madison to work with legislators at the center of the aisle and at the Democratic level as well.
Housing, you mentioned as an issue. Affordable rental housing is an issue in Wisconsin. Some have proposed government-imposed rent control to maintain affordability, while others argue keeping rent artificially low will decrease rental supply, resulting in increased prices. What is your sense of housing as an issue, and which best addresses rental housing affordability? Rent control, or building more rentals, or other?
So I've growing up, before I got into my career, that was something that I struggled with, was rent, paying rent and housing. So that is absolutely something I will work on to protect the people of Wisconsin and see what we can do as a state, and work with Governor Tony Evers and Tammy Baldwin and leaders right here in State Senate District 2 to really look into what needs to be done in order to have a safe environment for everyone.
Is it an issue you're hearing about from constituents, the cost of housing?
Very much so. Very much so. When I was just out knocking doors, as I mentioned this weekend, and that's one of the main concerns is rent. Well, not main, but one of many, affording rent and childcare. Those are two key issues just that I was listening to this past weekend when I was knocking doors.
Moving on to healthcare. Medical systems are facing numerous headwinds in the form of inflation, workforce development, and issues around Medicare and Medicaid reimbursement, resulting in fewer services and even the closure of a hospital system in western Wisconsin. What would you do to preserve access to care and prevent future closures?
So everybody has the right to health care, to quality health care, and without hospitals, and if we see closures with hospitals, that will deeply impact people in Wisconsin. And that's one thing that we need to look at, again, in Madison and here at the local level, to make sure and to ensure that we are keeping the hospitals open and that we are not closing the hospitals. That's very, very important to me.
So you'd support targeted funding in that area?
I would.
Mental health care, also a growing concern for Wisconsinites and for state and county budgets. In your district, what are you hearing about mental health care, and do you have ideas on how to address it?
So I'm hearing there is a lot of concern, especially as an educator. My husband's a veteran, so I see the struggles that he makes a lot, trying to get try to even just get appointments. So mental health is very important, and especially when it comes to education. We need to put more resources and invest in our schools and our just to make sure that we have boots on the ground to make sure people are healthy and they have the resources they need if they're struggling.
Abortion policy, you mentioned this as one of your priorities. How should Wisconsin move forward on the issue of abortion?
Every woman has her own right to protect her body and have the freedom to protect her body. If elected, this is something that I would fight to instill, would be to make sure women's rights are protected here in the state of Wisconsin.
There's currently a 20-week time frame. Is that something you support, or does that need to change?
Again, every woman has the right to make their own decisions about their body.
Transportation. What are the pressing transportation needs in your district, and how important is it that these needs are addressed, and for the state to keep on schedule with the reconstruction of aging interstates and significant corridors of commerce?
Well, I was just having a conversation about one of my assistants was not able to get on the bus because there's a lack of buses or bus time. So we really need to do a better job at making sure that our transit system is available 24/7, and also that we are using the infrastructure money to repair the roads, especially for the farmers, and so they can get to the fields so they can do their job. That's very important to me. The infrastructure to keep the stability of Wisconsin is very important to me.
The environment is an issue in your district. PFAS and other water contaminants are a concern for a growing number of Wisconsinites. Do you see this as an important issue, and how would you propose addressing it?
Very important to me. PFAS is very important. My suggestion would be, we have a budget of $125 million. The Joint Finance Committee could be testing for PFAS at this moment right now. They could be testing the water to see if there's a poison in our water or soil or our land. And that is something that I would work toward to make sure we could start protecting our water and our soil and our land. Let the DNR do its job, not have the taxpayers fund it, but have the polluters fund what they are doing to the soil and the land. Testing for PFAS is very important. We are in a place right now where we have the state of Michigan. They already have a plan in place. We wouldn't have to reinvent the wheel. We could pick up and learn from what they're doing for testing. So this is something that I have spent a lot of invested interest in, because everybody needs to drink water, and if we're getting PFAS into our soil, then that could eventually go into the livestock, and then we eventually start eating poison or PFAS.
We're down to the last two questions. I'd like you to ask you how you describe the leading differences between you and your opponent.
Well, I think one of the leading would be PFAS. Right now, he could make a decision to help release some of those finances, some of the funding, so we could start testing for PFAS. That would be one of the bigger differences. Also, I will fight for women's rights and freedom, and make sure here in the state of Wisconsin, women's rights are protected, and that is one thing my opponent will not do.
Your final question, let's say you're elected this fall and you get a magic wand you can use in the state capitol to resolve one issue in a way that brings all parties together. What would that issue be?
I would have to go back to women's reproductive freedom and making sure that we are protected here in the state of Wisconsin, and that we can talk about this and come to a conclusion because every life matters, every person matters, and we shouldn't have to keep fighting for women's reproductive rights. We should be able to make our own decisions, and I will work with leaders in Madison to come to the center of the aisle and hopefully come to some conclusions.
Well, thank you, Kelly Peterson of De Pere, the Democratic candidate for the 2nd Senate District. The election is November 5th. Kelly Peterson, thank you for talking with WisconsinEye.
Thank you so much for having me.
This programming is brought to you by our generous sponsors. Thank you for watching.